Welcome back, APUSH students. Today is Chapter 2 of the American Pageant, titled The Planting of English America. If you aren't using the pageant, it's fine because the content is still going to be the same. I'm going to go over all the key terms and notes for this chapter that helped me get a 5, so I encourage you to take notes as well. First is the Protestant Reformation, a Christian Reformation movement. It's separated from the Roman Catholic Church, which was a typically Eastern thing. This was significant because it became the dominant religion of England, which rivaled Catholic Spain, and this dispute spilled into conflict in America between Old World and New World, which is a huge theme of the early American period. Elizabeth I was the Queen of England, and she broke with the Roman Catholic Church, so this was kind of supporting the Protestant Reformation. And yeah, this influenced explorers of America to be more ambitious and encouraged them to fight against the Catholics, which was Spain. This is Roanoke Island. This was the first English colonization effort actually on the continent. This was in an island right off of North Carolina. It was a major failure, and there's actually interesting stories behind it about how it was lost and never found, but it failed. That's the part that you need to know. Spanish Armada was a large and strong fleet of Spanish ships, and they were totally destroyed by England, and this was the first event kind of sowing the seeds of the Spanish imperial failure at the hands of the British Empire. Next is the Joint Stock Company, a company owned by shareholders where people would invest into a company, and this was really key for colonization efforts because people would pool their money and fund colonization efforts, what really helped speed up the process of colonization on the East Coast by England. Virginia Company was a huge, important example of the joint stock companies. They were massively successful for the colonists, and they planted the seeds for England's huge, successful American nation. This is a charter. This was a document guaranteeing rights for English colonists. This kind of comes up later with the American Revolution, but basically England granted colonists rights as Englishmen, and it encouraged more people to leave to America because they weren't worried about, their rights as Englishmen, but also presented a conflict, like I said, during the American Revolution. This is Jamestown, a city in Virginia founded early on in the colonization efforts. It was the first city established by the English colonization efforts of America. Lord de la War's Irish tactics, these were just military tactics that really ambushed your opponent, and these were successful for the colonists defending themselves against the American Indians, but also fighting back and gaining more territory, early signs pushing west. These are the First and Second Anglo-Powhatan Wars. These are two wars fought between the Virginia colonies and the American Indians. It established the ideology of the Virginia colonists and the American Indians, and just colonists and the American Indians as a whole, that they could not coexist, and they would each battle each other. This is big for evidence, talking about colonial versus American Indian relationships. This is Pocahontas. This is an American Indian daughter of Indian chief Powhatan. She served as kind of a common ground, like a messenger between the colonists and the American Indians, stood as a symbol of peace, even though, of course, it never really worked out in the end. These are the 3 Ds: disease, disorganization, and disposability. This is important for talking about the future of American Indians because these things really plagued the American Indians as a whole. Tobacco, everyone knows what that is. Nicotine-rich American plant. It was a huge cash crop for places like Jamestown in Virginia, and they became the basis of the economy, actually, and they saved everyone from going poor and broke and starving. The House of Burgesses was an assembly authorized by the Virginia Company. This is kind of called the Virginia House of Burgesses, and they established a new precedent that allowed settlers to establish a government, which led to many mini-governments being formed, which, of course, this was another thing that can be projected forward into the American Revolution. The Act of Toleration was an act passed in Maryland in 1649 by the local representative assembly, protecting the Catholics. These provided protection for Catholics and Protestants so that they could kind of coexist with each other, but it restricted religious freedom for everyone else. So it was a good law in terms of Christian relations, but not totally for all religions, and it also made Maryland a heavily Catholic state. Barbados slave codes. These are codes that define legal status for slaves in 1661. This is important when you're talking about African American rights in the New World. This gave masters complete control over their slaves, which of course led to the booming of the slave industry and the plantation industry. Yamamis Indians was a coastal Indian tribe in South Carolina. They were defeated, which led to kind of the domino effect of all Native American tribes being wiped out in the South, giving complete land control where they could establish more plantations. The Iroquois Confederacy was a league of 5 American Indian tribes in the Mohawk Valley. They were the dominating American Indian tribe as a whole that gave refuge to many escapees of defeated tribes. They were powerful enough to engage in economic activities with the colonies, so the Iroquois Confederacy was the first American Indian nation that was capable of coexisting with the colonists without being run over. That's a wrap. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next chapter. Goodbye.